Hey, everybody. It has been quite a few weeks since my last podcast, and I apologize. Like you, I've been pretty busy during this somewhat weird worldwide pandemic. It has been a season, I believe, for ministers to turn off all the noise around them and perhaps listen once again to God. The world around us is erupting in violence, brought on principally because we're failing as a culture to listen to both God and each other. It's also a time for the Church of Christ to speak peace and present Christ as the only solution to racism, sickness, and strife. But that's not what we're going to focus on today. Will your last moments on earth be spent eating Jello? I'm quite certain no one has ever asked you that question before, but in a moment it could become one of the most important questions you'll ever answer. Let's chat after the intro.
Welcome to Minister's Toolbox, providing leaders with the tools they need to succeed in ministry. Now, here's your host, Casey Sabella.
Okay, I'm back, and let me take a moment to tell you about my amazing grandfather. His name was James McGovern. Born in America, he was Irish through and through. He drove a bus when buses were new, which is how he met my grandmother, quite by chance, when he asked for her phone number, as the story goes. She shouted it out to this perfect stranger, and the rest is history. My grandfather was an amazing athlete. His sport was baseball. Red McGovern, as he was known, played first base and made a reputation with a batting average of about .376. At 21 years old, he was stricken with typhoid, but scouts were so impressed with him that the Yankees signed him in his hospital bed to play for their minor league team. He showed great promise, but at 5'9" tall, he was too short for the major leagues. He continued playing ball for the New York Fire Department, where he spent all of his vocational career. When I came along, he was in his late 60s, and the flaming red hair was now white. He loved his Yankee baseball and kept a constant watch on every player in nearly every team. He remained quick as lightning for many years. He would often toss a baseball or even a tennis ball up in the air and then catch it on the back of his hand. Just try that sometime to see if you can do it. I was never able to come close. There are many stories I could tell you about his athletic prowess and ability. In addition, he was certainly a great husband, father to his 2 daughters, and grandfather to all of us in the family. He and my grandmother would often be invited to parties featuring much younger people because they always stayed engaged in conversation and interested in what other people were doing in their lives. Over the years, my grandfather developed high blood pressure. My grandmother, who, unlike him, was straight off the boat from Ireland, always feared she would lose him to that condition, even though he took medication and it remained under control. Her fear of losing him became somewhat obsessive. In his mid-80s, she was so worried that he would have a heart attack from his high blood pressure that she banned him from watching the New York Yankees on television. So, for the final years of his life, Red McGovern had to content himself with reading the newspaper and essentially wait to die. One afternoon, while spoon-feeding him Jello, Red McGovern passed away in front of her eyes. Sad story. But what does that have to do with you or your ministry in general? One of the things that has bothered me during this worldwide pandemic is the way people, including ministers, have accepted a mindset of living in fear. We've become conditioned to equate COVID-19 with death because virtually every news report about it includes death as part of the paragraph. As of this podcast, here are the real statistics. 128,758 people in the United States have reportedly died from COVID-19. That frightens everyone. But let's look deeper. 1,104,046 are reported to have recovered. That means 8,082 people have been infected per million. Let that sink in for a moment. Across the United States, that translates to 336 deaths per million that have occurred since this virus was first reported. Add to that there have been countless first-hand reports of doctors and hospitals reporting COVID as the main cause of death in some patients when in fact it was pneumonia or some other mitigating illness. Why has this occurred? Because hospitals get a lot more money based on the amount of COVID cases they report. Like Pavlov's dogs, our society has become conditioned to see COVID as nearly a sentence of death. But it is difficult to find real statistics about people who died exclusively from the disease. Here's what the Harvard Medical School has said about coronavirus. Quote, "Some people infected with the virus have no symptoms. When the virus does cause symptoms, common ones include low-grade fever, body aches, coughing, nasal congestion, runny nose, and sore throat. However, COVID-19 can occasionally cause more severe symptoms like high fever, severe cough, and shortness of breath, which often indicates pneumonia." Did you catch that? Essentially, our whole world has shut down because of the flu. Let that sink in for a moment. Read between the lines, ladies and gentlemen, and the reality is that we have shut down the world completely because of this aggressive flu. That's the truth in plain English. Now, I'm reasonably certain some may be put off when I speak this way, but my intent is not designed to mark out a territory or political position. My major concern is how pastors and leaders are allowing themselves to be led by the media rather than the Spirit of God. We all know that faith comes by hearing the Word of God. Doubt comes by feeding the mind with words of fear and confusion. Some doctors will stake their reputations on the effectiveness of masks, for example, while others are willing to do the same to say the precise opposite. We are submitting our minds, thoughts, plans, and future to daily media reports that suggest COVID-19 is as dangerous as the bubonic plague. If every time you hear the word COVID-19, you replace it with bad flu, I'll bet your life would change overnight. We have exalted this disease to become the worst plague to ever strike the earth. It is ridiculous what we are doing to ourselves as we seek to avoid getting the flu. Even more ridiculous is the idea that once we get a vaccine, our problems will be over. Newsflash, there are already flu shots you can get. Even then, they can't guarantee you won't get the flu. My late grandfather was truly a wonderful, loving, and giving man. I have fond memories of him, and he truly left a legacy to our family. I'm sad about the way he died. Now, I understand that my grandmother just wanted to do all she could to keep him alive. But at what cost? I can't speak for you, but I don't want the last moments of my life to be eating Jello. That image is burned in my consciousness. I want to leave this planet proclaiming the Word of God. If you want to know what I actually fear, it is that the church today has become so accommodating to COVID-19 and the strife in our culture that we present a powerless gospel to an indifferent world. Like the world, we're caught up in this spirit of fear, making life decisions on how or if we might catch the disease, canceling church services and steering clear of certain people for fear of dying with COVID. It's insane. We all know what the apostle said to his protege Timothy. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound or disciplined mind. It is indisputable that our world is cowering in fear. Even now, many are afraid to go outside or get too close to another human being. They fear COVID will kill them. This is a spirit of fear. What will be the church's message? Will we become third-rate medical professionals advising people on when and where to use a mask? God forbid. Am I suggesting we ignore state or federal laws or join a protest against face masks? No. What I am saying is to resist allowing COVID-19 to define us or our mission. Do yourself a favor and shut off the news. It's pretty much the same on every channel and only serves to paralyze people with fear and confusion. By our state's requirements, our church provides masks for those who would like them. But I don't preach the COVID gospel of social distancing or demand people stay 6 feet apart. That's up to them. Keeping a clean environment is just common sense, and we didn't need a pandemic to inform us of that fact. I've not changed my practices, even though the world has lost its common sense. Now, I don't violate the conscience of someone else by hugging them hello if they want to keep their distance. Romans 14:21 says it is better not to eat meat or drink wine or do anything else that will cause your brother or sister to fall. No, I'm not interested in creating new arguments for or against social distancing. My point is that you and I were created by God to do something more significant than cower in our basements afraid to touch people or things. To answer my question at the beginning of this podcast, if you want to finish well in ministry and life, do the Philippians test on yourself and your beliefs. Paul said, "Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise." Nothing currently happening in our world emanates from these attributes at the moment. Only when we think about what is true and honorable, etc., can we present the eternal message of the gospel. Only Jesus can solve our world's problems, but preachers who are afraid to go outside have nothing to offer a dying world. Jesus touched the leper. He didn't isolate him and practice social distancing. If you minister as Christ would ask you to minister, you'll always be at risk. But you know where you're going in eternity, which is far better than where most of our world is heading right now. Time to shake off the snake, as I shared in the last podcast. We are commissioned by God to bring the gospel to our nation. If the choice is between dying at 85 preaching the gospel or dying with Jello in my mouth 5 years later, I'll take the former. No disrespect to my grandparents, who were precious people, but I never want to be in a place where I'm just passing time waiting to die. Jesus told us to occupy until he returns. That means get busy doing something to impact your world for Christ. I hope this message has encouraged you a bit today. Even though I've been away from podcasting for several weeks, I have been active online. Currently, I'm building a YouTube channel featuring some of my latest teachings and trying my hand at singing a few of the classic hymns. I'll have links in the show notes for my channel and also further information to back up what I've said about COVID-19. Just go to ministerstoolbox.com to check out today's show notes. As you know, I end each podcast with a quote especially for you. This one is from our late friend Zig Ziglar, who said, "Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours." Until next time.
For more resources, go to ministerstoolbox.com. Thanks for listening.